Another major change, and I guess this is really the first of the major changes we're talking about. We did talk about the UI, certainly a huge change, but one of the major functional changes that we've made in 1.9 revolves around the way groups and roles work. And what I mean by that is we've actually gotten rid of groups. The way that the system used to work is groups, the layouts themselves, in other words, the tabs that you see here were attached to groups. But permissions in the system have always been based on roles, because you go to an object, say a page or a piece of content, and you would permission that object, and you would say this role, say, you know, the My Department role or the CMS administrator role or whatever it might be, that particular role would be given permissions. What a group did is it would allow you to put roles inside them. So a group was like a collection of roles. Well, as you can tell, it took a very long time for me to even explain where we were coming from, hence the need for the change. The multi-layers there of the users and the groups and the roles and LDAP tied to the groups, and then you had but there was no way to control the roles in that respect, was very difficult. At the same point, roles in our system was a very flat view, meaning they weren't hierarchical, it was flat. But groups allowed you to kind of put roles inside the groups, providing some functionality. So what we did is we've taken roles and we've made the roles be able to nest. So for example, here are system roles. And then you can have administrator, and you can see there's little arrows here, but it would be possible to add a role underneath the CMS administrator. It'd be possible to add you can just add a new role, and then you can add roles underneath those roles. So the roles in that respect become hierarchical. Someone has a role from the top, they can inherit, if you would, or have the roles that also live underneath there. You can do the same with permissions with the tabs and so forth. And that's the thing. We've also tied, if you would, the layouts, these guys, because they used to be tied to groups and we got rid of groups, so we had to do something with them. So what used to be, you had to build these complex layouts. If you remember, there was like a personalized page link here, or you could go to the groups, and then from the groups you can click what pages it had, and it was really kind of a mess to get this guy laid out. It's pretty simple nowadays. Let me just give you an example of what I'm talking about. Here we can click the CMS administrator. Now you see here we got a couple things. I can see all the users that belong to it, and we'll come back and talk about that here in a minute. I could also grant new people, so forth. But talking about layouts, I can click on CMS tab here. Now let's say I want the calendar to be given to the administrator. Well, I'm an administrator. I'm going to click it. I'm going to click Save. I'm going to go ahead and refresh my page. And notice here now the calendar appears. Very cool. Much easier than the way it used to be. So I'm going to go back to my CMS administrator. I'm going to click CMS tab, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new tab. I don't want the calendar guy anymore. What I want is a demo tab, and I could give a description of it. My tab, and give it an order, and then what we do is we add tools to it. So what do I want to show up here? Well, how about the roles? We'll put the roles guy in here. I can add another guy if I want, or I could remove that guy. I can go ahead and save him, and here he is. He's available. Now he's available for any role. I can go click on other roles and click on their tabs and give him access to these tabs. So now the layouts, if you would, or the tabs, you just create these tabs, and then these tabs can be assigned to any role that you feel like assigning them to. Okay, so I'm going to click not the test tab, but the demo tab. I'm going to go ahead and click Save. And now, when we reload our guy, here you can see his tab order was 0, if you remember, so he's right up front. And I can now click the demo tab, and here's the roles portlet, which is the tool that I added into that guy. All of the little portlets, or the little apps, if you would, right, the content search manager, the web page search manager, the structure manager, they're for the most part all full screen now. They used to be where you'd have like a little guy here, or a different guy, and again, very, very confusing. It would get very muddied and difficult to maintain. Now, everything displays in a way that kind of makes sense. And here you could see it also displays the description right underneath my tab, all very controllable right from the CMS tab. Again, if we wanted to change that, we could just click on our guy here, pulls him up. We could change to my tab. We can change his order. You can click and drag his order if you need it. And again, you can, to get rid of him, we just uncheck him. We click save. And once the page is refreshed, our guy's gone. So again, it's kind of a big change. It is definitely a functional change from where we used to be as far as the groups, the roles, the layouts, how these things come together, but really, in our opinions, a necessary change and much cleaner, much slicker interface. I will answer, I don't know how many of you guys run LDAP. LDAP used to be configured to the groups. It pretty much works the same way now as it used to work, except now you configure it to a role. You would tie directly in LDAP, you can put a user as a member of and make sure the member of attribute returns the roles that user needs to have, and dotCMS will auto sync that. You used to have that whole layer in the middle where you could never from LDAP directly put someone in a role. You can only put them in a group, and then in dotCMS you always had to manage the groups and what those roles have. It did make sense, but again, a whole layer of hierarchy where I think now you have more power, it's simpler to use, and we removed an entire layer, which is a huge benefit. Let's talk a little bit more about the roles. Another concept that now exists is users themselves could each have a role. And you're going to be able to assign, and I'm going to show you that pretty soon, you're going to be able to assign permissions and things of that nature to the user themselves. And the user basically, every user can kind of have his own role, if you would, in that respect. Adding a role, pretty simple. We could click over here. We can click add a role. We can click my role. You can give it a key. This is like a unique identifier, if you would, for this role. For example, if you were using LDAP or needed to tie into this role, you'd want to give it a unique key, because my role could exist under system and it could also exist under some other role, as long as it's at a different level. Think of it like a folder name. You can have two folders can share the same name as long as they have a different parent. Same kind of thing. In this case, we can click what this role is. We can make it a root role, and then you have some things here. Can this role edit users? Can it edit permissions? Can it edit tabs? So you get some control over these tabs here as far as what this role can actually do. So we clicked our my role guy. Here he is. If we wanted, we could now delete this role, edit this role. We can add users to this role. You get a user, you click them, you can grant the user here. It would come in inside the role, essentially giving this user the role. You can delete the role. Again, you can add another role, and you can hierarchically nest these guys. So I could add another role. I could make its parent be the my role guy, and this is how you can build kind of the tree of roles that you see here.